Hi, my darlings. I'm Sophie Darling, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we are reacting to episode 16 of series 1 of Apothecary Diaries. And the last episode was kind of wild. I think, based on some of the information we've been given, that Lakin is Mama's dad. That Lakin had a baby with a concubine in the Vardis house, and they have Mau Mau. And Mau Mau's been raised by the doctor for whatever reason because Mau Mau's mother was unable to look after her. And the more I think about it, so I've always ran with the idea that Mau Mau's mother is dead because we really don't hear anything about her. We really don't know anything. But I was thinking back to when Mau Mau was having a bath with, I believe it was it Mei Mei? And Mei Mei mentions something to Mau Mau about visiting the annex. Why would she need to visit the annex? And it was so like just casually dropped, and Mau Mau looked really kind of sad about going, and she said she would before she left, but we never got to see that interaction. We never got to see if she did go to the annex or what's in the annex or who's in the annex. And I'm wondering if it could be Mau Mau's mum that's in the annex, that potentially Mau Mau's mum is alive, but perhaps isn't in good health enough to work as a concubine anymore. So therefore she's looked after and taken care of by the other women in the Vardis house and resides in the annex. And that potentially Mau Mau goes to visit her, but maybe doesn't know that it's her mom, or maybe she does know that it's her mom, but she does mention about not having a mother. But I'm beginning to think that the annex is going to come back into it, that it's like a little nugget of information that's dropped in that really doesn't seem consequential until later on in the series. And then we go, oh my God, the annex that was mentioned in episode 8. So I think the annex is where Mau Mau's mom could possibly be. I think Lakin is making himself appear to be a creep, but isn't actually a creep. I think we're supposed to look at him and be like, ew, what a weird fucking guy. He probably is a bit weird, but look, Mau Mau's weird and we love her. She's quirky. She's fine. I think we're supposed to maybe prejudge Lakin, but potentially the way that he's framing his relationship with the concubine is to maybe protect the concubine and to protect his reputation too. Maybe he fears that because of his position and the fact that he's rich and powerful in court, that people could maybe target her by extension to get to Lakin. So it could be that he's trying to undermine that relationship just so that no one would think to harm her. And therefore, that's why Mau Mau wasn't claimed by him publicly, because again, he would want Mau Mau to be safe. So that's why he doesn't want Mau Mau back at court. He doesn't want people to know that she's his daughter, not because he's ashamed, but I think it's because he wants to ensure the safety of the woman that he loves and his daughter, who he cares about and who's being raised by someone who is respectable and admired in the pleasure district and was also a doctor. So it's not as if Mau Mau would have a bad upbringing. And I think he did that for Mau Mau's benefit because he didn't want her growing up in court, but he also didn't want the stigma of being an illegitimate child attached to her, because there would be a stigma. Again, we've talked about this before. The emperor and the rules that apply to him and his high-ranking courtesans are not the same rules that apply to everybody else within the society. So even the low-ranking concubines, if they had a child, that child would still be considered illegitimate, even if it was the emperor's child. Only the high-ranking courtesans, their children would be legitimate because they are basically seen as de facto wives to the emperor. So low to mid-ranking courtesans, children with the emperor, illegitimate. High-ranking courtesans, which are the 4 that we've seen, any of their children would be legitimate and have the privileges granted to them of being the emperor's children and potential heirs. So there is like a hierarchy system, and being an illegitimate child comes with stigma. It comes with societal judgment. It comes from not being welcome in specific places because of that judgment of your parents not being married and you being a bastard child. So it could be that Lakin didn't want Mao Mao to be subjected to that. He wanted her to live a life free from condemnation, but also potentially a life free from the court politics and the toxicity of court itself. Because he's seen firsthand what it can be like, and maybe thought her life would be better if she never had to grow up somewhere like here. But this whole him being like, I had to ruin her so that her body wouldn't be sold. I had to find a way to devalue her so that others wouldn't want her. I think that's meant to sound worse than it actually is. I think he's taking the blame for it, but potentially it could have been a plan concocted between the two of them. Because if you think about it, the way that it was described is that the concubine that we believe to be Mao Mao's mum, I say we as if you're complicit in this thinking, I believe is Mao Mao's mum, was one that never actually has intercourse with her clients. She was renowned for other skills and entertainment. That was what she provided. But there were two rich officials that were vying for her. And the more of worth she became, the more she was expected to essentially give in, which she didn't want. So what that maybe makes me think is that Lakin saying, oh, I did it to devalue her because like I wanted her for myself. I wanted to force myself on her. But I don't actually think that's the case. I think Lakin loved her. I think she loved Lakin. And I think Lakin and her maybe devised a way of devaluing her to the point that she wouldn't ever have to sell herself physically. I think he maybe either devised it himself to protect her, or she and Lakin devised it together, or that maybe she asked Lakin for help in ensuring that she would never have to subject herself to that fate. Because again, we've seen it time and time again in the show that women will find whatever way they can in this disempowering world to find a way to control their own destiny and their own individuality. It took me like 5 tries to say that word. They will do what they can to define their own life, their own existence in this world that is male dominated. So it wouldn't be beyond the realm of possibility for Mao Mao's mum to have approached Lakin or come up with the plan with Lakin to ensure that she could only be intimate with one person, which is the man that she loves, which is Lakin, because I think they did love each other. So I think, again, Lakin is being deceptive. Lakin is making everyone think that he's a creep, that his motives towards the concubine was fueled by disgusting, creepy tendencies, talking about wanting to force himself on her, and that his desire to devalue her was to essentially keep her for himself. I think there's an element of truth there, but it's been twisted because we've seen Mao Mao puts on a mask. Mao Mao wears the freckles to hide her true beauty. She doesn't want to be noticed because she doesn't want to be at risk of being assaulted or targeted because of her appearance. She wears the mask to hide herself and to protect herself. Likewise, I think Lakin also wears a mask, but the mask isn't designed to protect him. It's designed to protect the people he loves and cares about, which is this concubine and also Mao Mao. So he's willing to be seen as the villain, as the awful, horrible person if it keeps her safe and if it keeps their plan a secret from the rest of the world, who would maybe judge Lakin for his infatuation with the concubine, that he's willing to be the bad person, essentially. That's what I think it is. I think we're meant to maybe get bad vibes from him, but I don't get bad vibes. I get vibes of him trying to protect the people he cares about, and that the words are deceptive. They're meant to make you think one way, but there's like a layer of truth to it, and that it's not the full picture. But if you just took it at face value, you'd be like, what the fuck? This guy's horrible. Why the hell are we associating with him? Like, what what is going on. Whereas I think it's meant to hide the truth behind the vulgarity of the words. It's a mask. Like Mau Mau's freckles are a mask. Laken's using his words as a mask to hide his true feelings for this concubine and to potentially protect her and Mau Mau from scrutiny. Let's get into it though. I'm so excited. I love this show so much.
俺の知り合いのそのまた知り合いの揉め事なんだが、宮廷御用達の彫金細工師が弟子である息子たちに技術を
So
継承
this
しない
is
の
where
を
we
信
left
頼
off in
し、
the last episode that Laken wanted her
そ
to
の中に
investigate
はよ
into.
そでは一切伝えられていないものもあるという。
つまり彫金細工師の秘伝が分かればいいということですね。
それに、なんだか妙に乗り気じゃないか？
そうでしょうか。
What are you hiding, Mau Mau?
父親が残した遺言には形見分けの品が
Maybe
書かれてい
each
た。
son has one element of the secret skill, and that when it comes together, it forms all of his techniques. I don't know.
皆昔のように茶会でもするといいと言い残した。
Maybe this is his way of uniting his sons who have grown apart and maybe have developed some friction between each other. So maybe each son at some point has been blessed with the father's knowledge, but different aspects of it. And that when they come together and they talk about their father's skills and about this secret technique, they'll realize that the knowledge that one has and the knowledge that the other one has and the knowledge that the other one has, when it's all put together, forms the secret technique needed to ensure that their father's skill lives on. Maybe, or maybe I'm overthinking it, but that would be kind of cool. Like a little puzzle that they have to work out together, bonding the brothers once more.
小屋と家具と金魚鉢となると、どう見ても下の子ほど損をしている気がする。どういう品なのでしょうか。
そこまで詳しくは
Maybe there's something hidden inside them.
気になるなら言ってみればいいということだ。
準備がいい。最初からこうなることを読んでいたみたいだ。面白い。
Like father, like daughter, because gave the pipe to someone that caused the storage room to blow up. So maybe, like Mau Mau, was also wanting to find out what it was about because he was also like looking at the powder. They're like father, like daughter, both inquisitive.
と言っても今は母屋で作業をしていて職人たちの茶飲み場になっているんです。どうぞ。
Maybe his technique is in the tea house. Maybe hidden somewhere in the tea house.
兄さんたちということは案内役が末っ子ということか。
変わった家具の配置だな。
それでも部屋の見た目が悪くないのはテーブルの配置の妙な統一感とタンスの洒落た雰囲気のせいか。
It's really weird. Like it's just not laid out right.
動かないように固定されてる。
おい、それは俺のもんだ。見るのはいいが、触るんじゃないぞ。
Just trying to help you out here. Chill.
窓の位置も変わってるな。西洋風で妙に長い窓。せっかく日がたくさん入る作りなのに、部屋に入る光は木漏れ日。まともに光が入るのはこの一箇所だけか。
I won't lie, I have no clue what's going on
長い
anymore.
間何かが置かれていたのか。
本当にわかるんですかね、親父の残したものについて。
それは
話をもっと詳しく聞かせてもらわないと何とも言えない。
I love how she doesn't have to say anything. She just communicate with head gestures.
僕にはこれです。
高価なガラス製。金魚鉢は木製か、せい
It
ぜい
is
陶器製
very
だと思ってい
pretty.
た。それだと3人の形見分けの品はそれぞれに価値があると言えるだろう。
せっかく形見としてもらっても、鍵は一つしかないし、鍵穴に入りやしねえ。
Maybe the key's for something else, which then unlocks the key for the chest of drawers. I feel like he wants his sons to work together to like find the true technique. Like they have to work together to solve this puzzle.
親父は僕たちに。
お前はいいよな。さっさと金に換えられるものをもらったんだから。
そうだぜ。そんなんでもしばらく食うには困らない金にはなるぞ。
But he doesn't want to sell it. It's from his dad.
今さらみんなで茶会をして何になるんだよ。
What if the thing that Mau Mau saw in the hallway was actually what used to be on there and the light reflects on it, revealing some secret? I don't know. It's just weird that like she focused on it and then she was like, oh, something used to be here. Probably because he has two older brothers that talk over him.
親というものは子がいくつになっても気苦労が絶えないんだな。
That's why Aldua stayed as long as she did, because of her boy. Maybe he wants to ensure that the sons can work together and support one another. Because he was worried that they wouldn't.
ただの習慣か。もう少し光が伸びたらタンスに当たりそうだが、タンスに日焼けの跡はなかった。
Or was it the fishbowl that maybe sat
中
there?
に何か詰まってる。
何か分かったのか？
Is it unlocked by like direct filtered
誰かに似
sunlight?
ていると思ったら、こいつはガウシュに似ているのだな。兄弟たちにそれぞれ渡された
Doesn't the
形見
heat
の品、
of
小屋、
the
タン
sun
ス、
cause metal to expand? So maybe the fishbowl concentrates the sun into the keyhole and it expands to fit the key.
そして。
皆昔のように茶会でもするといい。
すみません。金魚鉢はもともとあそこの棚に飾っていたのではないですか？
そうですけど、寒くなると死んでしまうので、冬場は茶会をする暖かい昼間だけ。
They really cared about the goldfish. It's
おい
really
お前
cute.
ちょっと水をもらいに行ってきます。
また勝手に動きやがって。
She's on a mission. Trust her.
そうです。ちょうどこの絵柄がこちらに向くように。
やっぱり。
おい、なんだこれ。
触るな。すみません。目に入ると失明してしまいます。
Was I right?
栗の木の影に入ったようですね。
おい、何の意味があるんだ。
では先ほどの鍵でこの引き出しを開けてください。
だから入らないって言
It
ってんだろう
will
が。
because the metal's expanded. It's warm enough.
どういうことだ。
もしかしてお父上は貧血や腹痛などを繰り返していませんでしたか？
はい、そうですが。
他に吐き気や気鬱なども。
ありました。
ここではハンダも使っているのでしょうか？
使ってます。
どういうことだ？
私はただ皆で昔と同じように茶会をしろという遺言に従っただけです。
Look at her go! I'm always so proud of Mau Mau.
鍵穴に詰まっていた金属が熱で溶けて、その下の型に流れて固まったのだろ
ん？なんだこりゃ。
う。この青みがかった結晶は玄関先に飾られていたものと同じみたいだ。
He just wants his boys to work together.
何がみんな仲良くだよ。結局親父の最後のいたずらに振り回されて終わりかよ。
やってらんね
技は見て盗めとか職人気質の客人が昔言ってたな。それを真に受けて親父が取ってきた薬草を見よう見まねで煎じて中毒を起こして
まずは聞きなさい。
と諭されたこともある。
Oh, Mau Mau.
ハンダは数種類の金属を混ぜ合わせることで本来個々で溶ける温度より
Or maybe it was to reveal who truly deserved to know
鉛と鈴、
his
もう
techniques.
一つの塊を合わせることで新しい金属ができるとすればどうだろう。
何が遺言だ。行くぞ。
親父に期待して損したぜ。
待ってよ兄さん。
But it's not what your dad would
いたずらな
want.
んかじゃない。
だ
The
ったら
puzzle.
なんだってんだよ。
やっぱり親父は僕たち兄弟に仲良くしてほしくて遺言を残したんだ。
To work together.
だから僕は
Oh,
これからも
I'm gonna cry. Why am I so emotional over that? He's finally speaking his mind as
俺たち
well.
と笑わせんな。お前は俺たちとは違う。
才能のあるお前は親父に
Oh,
特
they were
別に可愛がられて
jealous.
たからな。
親父は兄さんたちのことを信頼していた。
They all envied each
いつ
other
も
for
僕に言っ
different
てたんだ。
things.
ちゃん兄さんはいつも冷静で細かな作業
Oh.
を正確にこなす。ミスがないから何だって任せられるって。ツー兄さんは人の心をつかむのがうまい。誰とでも打ち解けられるのは兄さんの誇れる才能だって。親父は僕たち兄弟のことを同じように見ていた。少なくとも僕はそう思う。
I don't know why this is making me so emotional. He just wanted his boys to get along with each other again.
花町の六章館という棚に両面という薬師がいます。医術の腕も確かなので、何か体調が悪いようであれば訪ねてみてください。
はい。
Because of what she noticed about their dad having depression and anemia from what he was working with. I believe I could get crying over that.
いやはや、なかなか面白いことになったよ。やはりあの三兄弟、一番できるのは末の息子だったようですね。
They were all skilled in their own
軍
way.
師殿には分かっていたのだろう。
後継者になって宮廷に出す細工を扱うと言われています。長男は売り上げの管理、次男は販路の開拓。それぞれ別の方面から家業を支えることにしたそうで
That's
す。
what he wanted, his
まあ、要
boys
する
to
に
work
適
together.
材適所に落ち着いたということですな。最後に先代が作った細工は素晴らしかった。あれは単なる金具でしたが、最後にあの細工を使うと映えるでしょうな。
そうですね。いやらしい男だ。本来私の立場に細具など関係ないと分かっているだろうに。
兄弟など関係ない。才能があるなら目をかけてやるべきだろうとね。
He knows that Jinshi is the Emperor's younger brother.
一理ある。
Younger
羅
brother.
漢はうさんくさい男だが、人の才能を見抜く目は確かだ。ところで、前の話の
Did
続きを
Make-
聞きたいのですが。
Macon? Did
前
Lakin
の話と言いますと、
climb over a
He's
brother to achieve
He's on
his
the
position?
ああ、貴女の希少
Maybe.
価値を下げる方法ですか。そういうことは、その世界を知る者に聞いた方が早い。
Mao Mao.
これは部屋付きの女官たちにでもあげてくだされ。甘すぎない飲みやすい口ですから。
Lakin, you're an odd fella. Very strange
じい
individual.
様お疲れのところ恐縮ですが、
お呼びでしょうか。
お前は化粧に詳しいか？
はあ、まあ一通りは。
ならば、俺に化粧をしてくれないか？
What for, Jinshi?
はい。
Is he going out in disguise or something? Maybe he needs to leave the palace, but he doesn't want people to recognize who he is, so he's going to dress up as a woman because he has very like effeminate features and could pass for a woman. So maybe that's what he's wanting Mao Mao to do. Lakin's little dialogue could be in reference to Jinshi being the younger brother and recognizing talent and his ability to be just as equal to that of his brother, despite his brother being the emperor. But I think it's alluding to perhaps Lakin stepping over a brother to claim what should have been his brother's place. But Lakin felt he deserved it more, so therefore found a way to show off his talents and his skill as the younger, and maybe took something that was meant for his older brother for himself, potentially, because it's saying whether elder or younger, everyone deserves a chance to be recognized for their skill and talent. So it does very much insinuate that perhaps that's what Lakin has done. Oh, hold up a second. Things are getting complicated. Okay, so we know that Mao Mao's dad was a eunuch that worked as a doctor. What if Mao Mao's dad was from the same family as Lakin? What if Mao Mao's dad is actually Lakin's brother? And that's why Mao Mao's been entrusted to him, because he's family. He's not Mao Mao's dad, well, he is because he raised her. He's like her uncle. He's her dad's brother, and that's why he has that, like, affection for her. It would be hard not to have affection for Mau Mau, but maybe that's why he agreed to take on responsibility for Mau Mau because he was already banned from the palace. He wasn't able to return, so maybe he decided to help Laken by raising his daughter as his own in the eyes of everyone else. Ooh, maybe. But then why would you do that if your brother usurped your place or if your brother stole what was meant to be yours? Maybe if Mao Mao's dad is Laken's brother, he didn't care that his brother took his place and therefore doesn't feel any resentment or anger towards him because he still got to pursue what he loved to do, which was medicine and treating people and being a doctor. So maybe that's why he was happy for Laken to show his skill and take responsibility and to become this strategist. Yeah, it does seem to be this is where it kind of departs from history a little bit in terms of the fact that eunuchs were not really doctors. It doesn't mean that they weren't, but it wasn't common because doctors served their own function. They didn't need to be castrated because they were serving everyone, not just the imperial royal family. And not everyone who served the royal family was a eunuch either. So that might be where this kind of departs because that's what I'm trying to figure out. If Laken and Mau Mau's dad are brothers, why was Mau Mau's dad castrated as a doctor? Why would he have been castrated? I know he was working in the Rear Palace, but as a doctor, that still wouldn't require him to be a eunuch. But we also know that the quack doctor is also a eunuch, so it could just be that in this particular setting, they're like anyone who serves in the Rear Palace, whether a doctor or not, has to be castrated. So it could be that maybe this was something that Mama's dad had to go through in order to obtain that position within the imperial court. He had to willingly undergo castration because a lot of the time it was like poor boys who were sold into becoming eunuchs. They were sold by their families and they were castrated at a young age. They were raised and trained to be servants and to work for the emperor and the emperor's family. So they could obtain positions of power in terms of becoming administrators or officials. They could become military generals or admirals. They could become power brokers. So they were able to gain power and privilege and prestige. But most of the time, eunuchs were young boys who were from poor families who sold them into this. So there is the element of suffering and class friction where young boys were abused by this system. They were trafficked into becoming eunuchs. They were forced into this position, which was not a life that they chose for themselves, which, you know, I love that that is something the show does touch upon and does indicate. We don't see it in as much detail, but I mean, I think it's pretty evident from the word eunuch that it's not something somebody willingly undergoes, but there were people who did willingly undergo it, but they are like very rare. They're the minority, not the majority. The minority that chose is because they wanted to serve in the court and they had to castrate themselves in order to do so. So it could be that that's where they're going with it, that maybe Mama's dad willingly chose to become a eunuch or maybe was selected to become a eunuch, but that's something that maybe we'll find out. I don't know, but he could be Laken's brother just based on that weird bit of dialogue where he's like, whether younger or elder, everyone should be able to show their talent. Hmm. Hmm. And I love that even though he's like, oh, I'll tell you if like Mau Mau investigates and finds out the secret technique. And he doesn't. He just goes, oh, yeah, no, you need to go ask someone that will know that world better than anyone, aka Mau Mau, because she grew up in that world. So she knows better than anyone how to devalue a concubine. He's such a crafty little shit. He really is. He fascinates me though. Lakin is very mischievous, and I think that's what I find so interesting about him. I can't wait to know more about him and his connection to Mao Mao and potentially to Mao Mao's dad. But yeah, this episode got me way more emotional than I thought it would. I think it's just seeing how much the dad cared for his sons and he wanted them to find their place, and in finding their place, work in harmony with one another. He wanted his younger son to recognize that he has a voice and that he can speak up and that he's incredibly talented and that talent shouldn't go to waste, but also wanted his other sons to recognize their talents too and how those talents can work with their brother, and that they all can be in sync with each other, that neither can function without the other to help, to relieve the burden. This business can only operate so long as all three of them are working together and moving forward. He wants his sons to know how much he valued them for different things, but that he saw them all as equals in what they could provide and produce in relation to his business, in ensuring that his legacy lives on through his boys. It just got me emotional because the younger son finally finds his voice. He's able to speak up. We see that the two older brothers are jealous of the younger because he was so talented and skilled, and they thought that the dad must favor him because he was most like their dad, whereas the dad actually admired all of them equally. He loved them all equally, and even when he was dying, his biggest worry was them. He wanted them to get along like they used to. He wanted them all to be together, to have tea together like they used to be a family and united as a unit. And the fact that his dying wish was fulfilled with Mao Mao's help was just more emotional than I anticipated it being. I think it's just like the power of what parents will do for their children, how you never truly stop worrying about your children. There's always going to be that underlying need to protect and ensure that they're safe. And I think that also could link to perhaps Laken's motives when it comes to Mao Mao. I hope you guys enjoyed this react. Please consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment below to help boost this video into the algorithm. And until next episode, bye!